Bullies of Reddit, what's your side of the story? Yeah, this one time some guys were teasing me about something, and I said stop. They didn't stop. Then eventually I said stop more aggressively. One guy said, oh, you're serious? That when I realized, sometimes they really don't know. In a lot of anti-bullying presentations, the hypothetical bully often lies and says they are just joking. But those presentations don't account for people who legitimately don't know when a joke has gone too far. And not everyone is going to have the courage to say stop like I did. A lot of my mates, even now, have this problem. There's a lot of friendly banter that goes on within my friend group, but a lot of it is just people ripping into each other, and sometimes it makes me miserable to have everything about me insulted and then get punched in the back after. If anyone tries to tell them to stop, it's just a fucking joke, calm down etc lol. I don't think yours counts as bullying, since you didn't mean to intentionally harm him. Don't feel bad about it, just maybe try to clear things up with him. I mean, I was trying to harm him just in like a friendly fun way. I was a fucked up kid. Yeah, I get you. As a girl I do the same thing, but my friends know I'm joking. One time one of my friends did a WWE demonstration on me as payback. Getting body slammed to the floor by a dude twice my size hurt. But you like hurting him. My friends and I talk to each other like that all the time. I guess you just gotta find the right person who has a similar idea of fun. We make really f up jokes lol. She blamed me for stealing a fruit roll up when I didn't. I just happened to have one as well. I got in trouble. My parents were abusive. I got a pretty bad beating that day. I bullied her until I moved away in 10th grade. Wow. That has a lot to unwrap in it. I hope you are in a better place now. I see what you did there. I bullied some kid in middle school. He was a nice kid but kinda geeky. An easy target in other words. It's no excuse, but I was being tormented by my older brother and my mom refused to do anything to stop him. In a hoe, I would pick on him, and it wasn't until some teachers and my friends pointed it out to me. I wish I could go back in time and kick my own ass. I actually thought about messaging him on FB to apologize, but I chickened out. You should do it, man. I believe in you. My bully messaged me and apologized like 20 years after the fact, and it actually gave me some closure. I appreciated that he owned up to his behavior and that I wasn't just some piece of forgotten roadkill. One thing, keep in mind that you are not guaranteed a good response. You might not get any response at all, or they might respond in anger. Also, be mindful of your own motivations and that they don't owe you anything. I responded with forgiveness, but that was because he wrote with contrition, and it seemed like he grew up to be a genuinely decent dude. It was surprising and unburdening both of us. Just something to think about. In my case, I was the bully, or at least part of the circle doing the bullying. My excuse was that, since I was also bullied mercilessly, I found relative safety by getting lost in a crowd where I was just following the sheep. If that meant ganging up on someone else, at least I wasn't the victim. There was a girl in my 8th grade class who was also in my same band class. Very big girl, and very self-conscious. Always smelled like she had bad hygiene. Found out years later she actually has a condition where she can't digest certain things, so really bad. Smelly gas was a big symptom. She absolutely couldn't help it. The crowd I hung with would be brutal towards her, going as far as to physically assault her. I felt terrible for her, but did nothing so as not to draw the ire of the ringleaders. It was cowardice of the highest order. I'll never forget one day she ran out of class because of an emergency and had made the mistake of wearing a white skirt that day. I'm sure you're guessing what happened. The next day, her locker was covered in feminine pads covered in ketchup. I'll never forget the look on her face as she approached the locker and saw what had been done. The worst part was making direct eye contact, and I saw, for the first time, the pain behind those eyes. We lost touch for about 20 years after. I recently reconnected with her because she actually reached out to offer condolences after my wife passed. She had heard through mutual friends what had happened and actually messaged me on Facebook. I lost it. I cried openly, remembering what I had done, or at least allowed to be done, to her. I was ugly sobbing as I was typing my replies to her, asking for her forgiveness and genuinely feeling like absolute shit. She forgave me and actually said she understood. She saw what I was going through as well. We are very good friends now. She has a heart of gold and is one of the nicest, most genuine people I know. Bullying was systematic in my school, a relic of the English prep school fagging culture. I was part of a continuum. The older boys bullied me, I bullied the younger boys. It was expected. They've washed that out of the school culture now. A catalyst was a speech by a single student. He stood up in assembly as school captain a few years ago and spoke about his experience of bullying as a gay student. Changed a lot of attitudes. Fagging culture? In English prep schools 100 years ago, older boys had a formal set of, really quite nasty, humiliations and physical abuse they perpetrated upon younger boys with the blessing of the school. This was called fagging. Fagging and being fagged was considered part of raising a resilient man. It was basically systematic traumatization. I thought everyone hated me and thought it didn't matter what I did or said. Didn't really realize it was me being a bully. I was young and stupid. I think a lot of it was self-centered, thinking that people should have liked me, and when they didn't, leaned really hard into not being liked. Looking back, I'm sure there were plenty of reasons I didn't get along with people in the first place, or maybe they didn't hate me and I just couldn't see that. I can relate. My past self was just an unlikable and rude person. Though I don't think I bullied anyone, it's still the reason I have never made any good friends. College will be my second chance, my fresh start. Genuinely just didn't know I was bullying the dude. I thought we were having some friendly horseplay fun every day, as I was one of those girls who liked to show off my strength to the boys so they wouldn't call me weak. And then one night over dinner my parents were like, dude, his parents told us he complained about you bullying him. What the fuck? Needless to say, the friendly horseplay fun stopped soon after, as I felt completely awful. This was me too. I never really realized it wasn't all in good fun. I look back and think, man, I was a huge asshole, but at the time I just thought that's how people treated each other. At first, I never got physical with anyone. I'd make fun of them, or call them names, or whatever. To me it was all jokes. People would laugh, right? I figured, if people made fun of me, I'd laugh about it, so anyone who gets upset about getting made fun of is just taking themselves too seriously. I didn't really snap out of that mindset until college, when I started to realize how my words affected people and their perceptions of both me and themselves. But fortunately I did snap out of it eventually. I say at first I never got physical, because I did end up getting physical with somebody one time. Again, I thought it was friendly fun. It was like boiling a frog. Each instance of bullying was just slightly more aggressive than the last, until I found myself forcing someone onto the ground and holding them down. I got in trouble for that one. Completely deserved, obviously, and luckily it kind of set me right in terms of respecting physical boundaries. I think bullying is just part of growing up for some people. I think the vast majority of bullies tend to outgrow it. I'm not sure if it's a delayed sense of empathy. I'm certainly much more empathetic than I was then, or just a natural part of teenage angst and aggression, or what. But I think it's just a phase, to borrow a term. Edit. I keep thinking about this, and it's something I haven't really done a great job of processing, so I'm just going to ramble for a while. Nobody is reading this anyway. I remember, in high school, I got a text message from a girl in my class. I have no idea how she got my number. I didn't have hers. She introduced herself like, I'm so and so and I sit behind you in such and such class. Why do you hate me so much? I didn't even really know she existed. I mean, I was aware that somebody probably sat behind me in that class, but this wasn't some regular victim, just a person that up until then I thought I'd been interacting with normally. But somehow I was the bad guy in her story. Her whole life revolved around trying to avoid interactions with me because I made her feel so bad about herself. We talked it out, and I told her that I didn't hate her and meant her no disrespect. We tried being friends for a while. I guess I felt guilty and wanted her to know that I wasn't a bad guy, but I ended up treating her like shit over and over, and she stopped associating with me. Good for her, honestly. It should been a wake-up call for me. But it's so hard to recognize what you're doing wrong when there are always so many people ready to defend you. I'm not trying to pass the buck for anything I did because, I mean, I did it. but it's so surreal, acting like an asshole to everybody all the time, and then your friends turn around and tell you, nah, it's cool, you're a really great guy, people just need to get to know you. People love describing me like that. Oh, he's an acquired taste. Yeah, he's really funny. You just can't take what he says personally. He's a great guy deep down. He's just blunt. If anybody tried to call me out on my shit, I'd have a dozen people ready to defend me publicly and privately. So I never really had to confront anything. It's not my fault that someone cried after I made fun of them. They just can't take a joke. They just don't know me well enough. They just don't get my sense of humor. But being a jackass isn't a sense of humor. I'm a much funnier, more likable person now that I'm not relying on being mean-spirited all the time to make friends. Read people who like being on the safe end of a bullying stick. FWIW. Today, a decade later, I associate with basically zero of the people who I used to in high school. But my college buddies, the ones who weren't afraid to call me a jackass to my face and confront the way I treated people, those guys are people I'll stay friends with for life.